Hello, I'm Caroline Bolton. I'm an archivist working in special collections here at the University of Leeds. I'm also a current recipient of one of the RLUK and National Archives digital fellowships looking at the archive catalogue as a data set. Today I'm going to give you a brief overview of the work we've been doing to convert places that feature in one of our catalogue collections into a format that can be plotted onto a map. So just a bit of background to this. This work has been undertaken as part of a current 3-year Dialect and Heritage project, which is funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. It's led by Dr. Fiona Douglas here in the School of English and is partnered with Special Collections as the home of the Leeds Archive of Vernacular Culture, which is abbreviated to the much easier to say LAVC. Project partners include 5 regional museums across the country, and the focus is very much about creating common links between the contents of the LAVC and those of the museum's own collections, so that we can create a model to essentially put the LAVC back into the communities that it was gathered from. So just a little bit about LAVC. It's an amalgamation of 2 separate but interlinked collections. The first being the Archive of the Survey of English Dialects, which was a nationwide study that was initiated by Professor Harold Orton of the University here in Leeds during the 1950s and 60s. It posed 1,300 or so questions to capture the dialect words of nearly 1,000 informants across 313 mainly rural localities. The second part of the collection relates to the research of the Institute of Dialect and Folklife Studies, which was in existence here at the University of Leeds between 1964 and 1983, and really arose partly out of that success of that earlier survey. Together, the collection features the original survey response books, the experimental word maps used to display results, as well as over 2,000 photographs and around 1,000 audio recordings, which are currently being digitised by the British Library under their Unlocking Our Sound Heritage project. For a collection such as this that mainly relates to dialect, folklife, customs, craft, arts, food, work, what is really important and key to understanding it is place, from the wider regions to those hyper-local differences. And as the collection was already catalogued, the aim of this part of the project had been to enhance the catalogue and really draw out these access points. So recording place. We started to look at how we traditionally recorded place in catalogue descriptions. Historically, this has tended to be recorded in quite narrative text descriptions, with a few recent exceptions where we'd started to record this in a much more structured format so that researchers could filter their search results by place. In both instances, there have been limitations. Reliance on keyword searches are notoriously hit or miss, and even when structured, we needed enough information to distinguish it from places with the same name, for example. So we were talking about Leeds in West Yorkshire or Leeds in Maidstone, Kent. The main limitation was that in most instances, you needed to know what you were looking for to use search. But if we're talking about improving discoverability, we need to look at ways of supporting browsing content too. Place can be a really powerful access point that can provide that alternative way into collections, and so our challenge was to find an engaging way of presenting this. We came across some inspirational examples such as the BFI's player and also Essex Sounds, and we set to work on doing something similar, which would involve georeferencing place in our catalogue, and that is recording the location coordinates. So how did we get there? We were lucky we had a new module in our collection management system, which is KeyEmu, that was designed for recording location metadata. But before we started to populate this, we had a number of questions that we needed to answer first. Firstly, what types of places could or should we record? We talked about specific addresses, villages, regions, countries, and as we could only hold the coordinates that can be plotted as a point on a map rather than kind of the boundaries that you see around counties, for example, how would we represent locations that were things like counties or countries? Then there was the question of whether we were recording historic locations, so for example Westmoreland rather than modern day Cumbria. We also needed to figure out what metadata we should capture about place. We looked at other examples of descriptive metadata and standards for recording place, such as the hierarchies for identifying states, territories, countries. One example being that the UK, for example, is the recognised country rather than England. Then there was the spatial data. Georeferencing and this type of data was very new to us, so we needed to have a look at what we needed it to hold and what formats. For us, we settled on latitude and longitude in a decimal format rather than the degrees, minutes, seconds, which was another format available. And establishing all this detail was vital in making sure that places could be plotted accurately, because errors could lead to locations appearing on different continents if we were to have any inconsistencies with that. And then the next question was, where could we actually get this information? Could we get it from somewhere else rather than creating it ourselves? We didn't want to have to reinvent the wheel or create work for ourselves, so we looked at commonly used and openly licensed sources such as gazetteers, such as GeoNames and the Getty Thesaurus of Geographic Names, to see what we were able to reuse. So what did we do? Well, we decided that for the purposes of LAVC, we would only create site metadata records for places as they are now known for the purposes of plotting on a contemporary map. The original descriptions of places would always be retained in the catalogue descriptions that were linked to these, and we discovered also that data for these kind of various historical locations, such as pre-1974 county boundaries, already existed elsewhere that could be effectively used by researchers to layer over these maps if they really wanted to do that. This way we could also use GeoNames as our comprehensive lookup of geographical metadata. We were keen to use it because of its widespread coverage. It included things like geographical features as well as places, and also because it included links to Wikipedia. Our first step really was about identifying places within our catalogue and that we needed to create a site metadata record for. This involved a very manual process that started with the text extract of catalogue descriptions and literally reading through those and extracting the place name and recording this in a separate field of the spreadsheet. Then, using this list of locations, we created a separate spreadsheet for recording all the metadata about those places, so the names, the latitude and longitude for each location, all using GeoNames as a lookup. It's worth saying that we did experiment with a free-to-use spreadsheet add-on app, which was able to georeference hundreds of locations within minutes with a relatively high level of accuracy. And there are various tools available, and going forward it would be something to consider again if the volume of location records outweighs the resource we have available. But the caveat to this type of automation tool really is the assurance of accuracy. There is room for error, and that means that we'll need to have some robust quality control in place. What did we record? Well, in the end, we created a site metadata record that included the following metadata fields. So we had a text description, things like continent, country, territory, county, state, city, town, place, the latitude and longitude, and the permanent IDs for each location from both GeoNames and Getty. We felt it was worth including this really to help remove any ambiguity in identifying a place, but also as a foundation for future linked data opportunities which we were hoping to explore in the future. Once these were created, then these were mapped to each corresponding catalogue record. So what have we been able to achieve? This is very nearly the end product. We've created over 1,000 location site records, and these can be reused to map and link other collections. And the more exciting news is that our own IT support have been able to transform this data into an interactive catalogue search interface like the one pictured here. The work is still ongoing to refine this, such as being able to filter different resources. We're hoping that you can perhaps toggle between different types of resources like audio or photographs. But the key aim is to build it so that it's a reusable feature for other collections. The other output to emerge from this work is really a kind of exemplar of how researchers could perhaps take this and reuse the catalogue data to create their own maps. Simply importing the original spreadsheet into applications such as Google My Maps has enabled me to produce simple yet effective maps. These have been relatively easy to achieve without any need really for advanced data or coding skills. And I think the growth of these kind of intuitive data visualization tools offer increasing potential for widening digital scholarship audiences or communities that just want to, or individuals that want to experiment with this type of data. but it's only if this data is made available for use. So what lessons have we learnt along the way? As a manual process, this type of catalogue enhancement activity worked well as a remote or crowdsourced way of resource and indexing. We did this during the COVID lockdown with team members doing this remotely from home, so it does lend to remote volunteering opportunities, as it was mainly done on spreadsheets, and both GeoNames and Getty offer freely accessible online lookup facilities. That said, it could also be semi-automated to reduce the resource required, either by using these spreadsheet add-on tools that I previously mentioned, or longer term and on a bigger scale, if this is something that we want to look at, more investment in the IT support to enable collections management system to call the web services or the APIs of third-party authorities such as GeoNames, etc., so that they can help us to write that data. I think we have to accept with both manual and semi-automated approaches, it may not be perfect. There is still room for error, down to the types of detail that we need to retain, or sometimes the scale of what we're doing. And place can be a difficult concept to define. We came across lots of variations in consistency in how places were recorded. We've already mentioned the historical differences, but sometimes that can be simply one of language, whether we're talking about the common English version, say for example Turin, or the local version of Torino. And we also have to be aware that the name or a designation of a place can be politically contentious in some parts of the world, so we do need to have some kind of sensitivity in how we label up some of these places. I think a main consideration though is a need to be clear on the scope of what you want to map, understand what is possible, but also what are the limitations, and where you can actually source some of that data elsewhere, so that we're not reinventing the wheel. So what are the opportunities and next steps for us? It has been a learning curve, but one that will hopefully prove worthwhile, as it offers exciting new insights and ways into collections. We've already seen this with LAVC. When we started to plot things on a map, there were a few spots turning up on the African content, which led to questions about what was actually in the catalogue. And sure enough, we did have content relating to some countries in Africa that was buried in the text of the catalogue, but when you start to plot that on a map, it becomes very obvious. There are opportunities for researcher-led digital storytelling and visualisation if data can be made available for reuse. Ideally, we'd want this to become a business as usual way of cataloguing for new collections where place heavily features. Correspondence and photographs are obvious resources that would benefit from this. But it may depend on the collection, and it may depend on the level to which cataloguing can be resourced, and I would say that not all collections are going to be suitable. If we're talking about retrofitting existing catalogues, I think this type of enhancement activity could be crowdsourced or a researcher activity. And we also really want to explore the use of permanent IDs. Permanent IDs offer potential for linking data and collections outside the university, which hasn't yet been fully explored. I know there's ongoing work here around Wikidata and use of things like Wikidata Q codes for a place, potentially offers further opportunities and merits some further review. Similar things could be said about the possibilities of semi-automating this type of indexing. We've already started to play around with tools like OpenRefine, reconciliation services, where they're able to again help us enhance data. And the final word, although this has been built around our collection management system, KeyEmu, I would say it is just another metadata repository. The bulk of the work has been done on spreadsheets, so I think the workflow and the methodologies could similarly apply to other catalogues or collection management systems. And lastly, just an acknowledgement to the collaborative efforts of this type of project. We've had colleagues from the project, Special Collections and IT who have helped with this project, and we've had a lot to learn and work out along the way, and all of it whilst remote working. So it's very much been a team effort to get us where we are now. Thank you for listening.